Why did you do that for us in the middle of the game?
That nonsense is right in the break. We're going to watch it to find out what's going on in the world.
A monument to honour Betty Campbell, Wales' first black head teacher and Black History campaigner, has been unveiled in Cardiff. It is believed to be the first statue of a named, non-fictional woman in an outdoor public space in Wales. Mrs. Campbell, who died in 2017, proved her doubters wrong after being told as a child that her dream job was as a head teacher was insurmountable.
The statue was commissioned following a BBC Wales hidden heroine poll. Professor User will be founder of Rees Community said Wales has shown that this black woman truly matters to us all. Geraldine Trotman, Black History patron for Wales, said the unveiling of the statue of Miss Campbell would be one of the greatest moments for Butetown and everyone who lives in Wales.
Why do I need to know this? It's just a statue.
It's more than just a statue. Did you know this month is Black History Month?
Well, my teacher said something about it, but I still didn't understand what it meant.
Well, I see we have a lot of work to do. Let's go back to where it all started.
1783, the Middle Passage.
We've been board on the ship now for 4 months. My back is in agony and there's bruises on my back. People have become sick or died right here on the shelf, shackled to the living. The stench is terrible. I heave, but I know I won't be as sick as my stomach is empty. Those of us who have survived has been thrown on the deck today. They threw seawater on our bleeding bodies. I tried not to scream with the pain, so I grit my teeth, closed my eyes and let it happen. I was scared that if I complained too much, I would be thrown overboard like others before me. I think they're getting us ready to leave the ship. I know in my heart this will not be the end of our suffering. This is just the beginning. What have I done to deserve this? I miss my family and I just want to go home.
Did they really treat people like that?
Sadly, yes. And he was right. Things did go worse for most of the enslaved people. Look!
1815, Pennsylvania.
My name is Harriet Tubman. I was born on a plantation and both my parents were enslaved people. I had 8 brothers and sisters, but slavery forced us apart. At the age of 5, I was rented out to set up muskrat traps and later a field hand. I preferred the long hard days on the plantation instead of working indoors doing the chores. Every day was so terrible and unjust. When I was 12, I stepped in to stop an overseer from throwing a heavy weight at a fugitive. That weight broke my skull. They carried me to the big house bleeding, but I had no bed to leave me on some room. I stayed there for 2 days. The injury caused me to have headaches and fainting spells. On September 17, 1849, my 2 brothers and I escaped the plantation. With the help of the Underground Railroad, we traveled north to Pennsylvania and to my freedom.
Over the next 10 years, with the help of the abolitionists, she established her own Underground Railroad and saved many enslaved people, including her parents.
She was a very strong woman. I think life have been very difficult for the enslaved people.
It was, but they bonded together and supported each other throughout the tough times. It was even said that the English rugby anthem, Sweet Low Sweet Chariot, was sang through the Underground Railroad.
3.
Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home.
Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot,
better make it light on yourself and let me have those seats. Let me have these seats. Why don't you stand up?
I don't think I should have to stand up.
Are you going to stand up?
No, I am not.
Well, if you don't stand up, I'm going to have to call the police and have you arrested.
You may do that. I was arrested that day for civil disobedience. It was on that day that I decided to fight for what I believed. I encouraged every black person to boycott the Montgomery buses. From that day forward, and eventually in November 1956, we won our case, and bus segregation was regarded unlawful. I decided to fight to dedicate my life in justice, and I was honoured as the First Lady of Civil Rights and the Mother of Freedom Movement.
Wow, she was very brave. I didn't think I would stand up to her like that.
The civil rights movement encouraged all black people around the world, including children.
Well, did you really mean what could a child do?
Well, you may be surprised. Let's take a look at Ruby Bridges. Here, listen to this.
Ruby Nell Bridges Hall, born September 8, 1954, is an American civil rights activist. She was the first African American child to desegregate the all-white William Francis Elementary School in Louisiana during the New Orleans school desegregation crisis on November 14, 1960.
14th of November 1960, Louisiana.
Driving up, I could see the crowd. When living in New Orleans, I thought it was Mardi Gras. There was a huge crowd of people outside the school shouting and throwing. That usually goes on around in New Orleans in Mardi Gras.
She showed a lot of courage. She never cried, she didn't whimper. She just marched along like a little soldier. And we're all very, very proud of her.
All of the Bridges entered the school. White parents pulled their own children out. All the teachers except for one refused to teach, while a black child was enrolled. Only one person agreed to teach Bridges, and that was Barbara. Henry, and for over a year, Ruby was taught in a classroom of her own. Every morning as Ruby walked to school, one woman would threaten to poison her, while another held up a black baby doll in a coffin.
Things also got bad for her family. Her father lost his job, the shop stopped serving them, and her grandparents were turned off their land. But many people in the community showed support in other ways. A neighbor gave her dad a new job. Local people babysat and watched the house, and some walked behind the federal marshal's car on the trips to school.
Now she is the chair of the Ruby Bridges Foundation, which she formed in 1999 to promote the values of tolerance and respect and appreciation of all differences. Describing the mission of the group, she said, "Racism is a grown-up disease that we shall stop using our children to spread." The civil rights movement really moved forward from the 60s, and one of the most famous activists at the time was Martin Luther King.
Ooh, I've heard of him. He was the one who said the famous speech, "I have a dream."
Well done, at least you listen sometimes. 28th of August 1963, Washington, D.C.
Martin Luther King delivered his iconic "I Have a Dream" speech on August 28, 1963, at a civil rights rally in Washington, D.C. that was officially known as the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom.
The figurehead of civil rights movement called for an end to racism in the US, which at the time was still segregated both legally and in practice in most areas of life.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day, even in the red hills of Mississippi, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will one day be able to sit down together at a table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, out in the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with heat of oppression will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that one day my 4 little children will one day live in a state where they will not be judged by the color of their skin but by their character. I have a dream today.
That was very powerful.
The civil rights movement made huge advances for the equal rights for black people, but sadly still today racism raises its ugly head. Do you remember watching the Olympics and the football matches where the sports players were taking the knee?
I remember that. Why was they doing that?
Let's take one more look.
25th of May, 2020, Minnesota, US.
George Floyd, a 46-year-old African American, was filmed gasping for air and pleading for breath as a white police officer kneeled on his neck for 9 minutes. His last word, "I can't breathe," became the slogan of a nationwide protest.
Black Lives Matter is a phrase used to highlight racism, discrimination, and equality experienced by black people. It grew in the US after high-profile kills by police, but it has also been used in the UK and elsewhere. Supporters point to the fact that black people are much more likely to be shot by police in the US. They say that in the US and many other countries, they also suffer many other forms of discrimination.
They want action to address unequal treatment and oppression that goes all the way back to the era of slavery, but which continues today. Supporters of Black Lives Matter have also argued that crisis who say all lives matter, all white lives matter, are dismissing the impact of slavery and racial inequalities.
They say a phrase is a demand of equal treatment and an end to racism because of the lives of Black people are just as important of those of others.
I think I understand now. Can we learn more about Black History Month?
We certainly can. Let's turn the TV on, should we?
The unveiling of the monument coincided with the beginning of Black History Month. It was first celebrated in London in 1987 as part of the African Jubilee year, when on October the 1st, Dr. Maulana Karenga from the US was invited to an event at County Hall to mark the contributions of Black people throughout history, and Ade Sebu drew up a plan to recognize the contributions of African, Asian, and Caribbean people to the economic, cultural, and political life in the UK.
I hope you enjoyed our assembly today.
And that it will inspire you to find more about the amazing Black people that helped to build our nation. Why not take a trip to see the Betty Campbell Monument?
We would like to finish our assembly by singing Betty Campbell's favourite song, Summer Can Set So Strong. While we sing, take time to reflect on what you have seen today and think about how you can help break down the barriers to racial equality.